Hello, I'm Natalie, your English teacher, and don't forget to subscribe for our amazing lessons and very useful speaking practices. Are you ready to start? Here it is, day number 1 to speak English fluently. But first, I want you to solve this puzzle. It will be the topic of our lesson. I hope you did it, so we'll check a little bit later. If you watch this lesson till the end, you will learn a lot of useful information. By the way, how are you today? Pause the video and write in the comments, please. As for me, I'm great. Thank you. And do you know another different ways how to ask about people's life instead of how are you? So we're going the first practice. We're going to listen to me, then repeat after me out aloud. So let's start. How are you doing? How is it going? How have you been? What's up? How's everything? And now pause the video and write in the comments your favorite. And now speaking practice. You ask me using one of the variants from the previous page, and I will answer. Let's get started. For example, how is it going? So, do you feel more confident in speaking English? Great, because we are going to continue and we'll remember 5 adverbs of frequency. Perhaps you know them quite well. They are on the slide. Let's read aloud. Always, usually, often, sometimes, and never. It's another for the question how often. How often do you do it, for example? Speaking about the pronunciation, by the way, often and often. Sometimes people ask me what is better to you, so it's about the difference American and British pronunciation. We use British. Often. And now again speaking practice. Now you ask me a question from this list and I will answer using adverbs of frequency. So let's get started. For example, you can ask me, out aloud of course, how often do you watch TV in the evening? And I will answer, I often watch TV in the evening. As you can see an example, the word often, it is on the second place between subject and verb. So it's usual place. Don't forget about the second place. Okay, so let's continue. You ask me the second question, please. How often do you eat dinner with your family? I always eat dinner with my family. And now it's your turn to answer. I will ask and you will answer. How often do you read a book before bed? How often do you brush your teeth at night? And how often do you go to bed early? Great job! Perhaps you just guessed what is the topic for today's lesson. And of course it is evening. So we're going to speak about different evening activities, but first let's warm up. Can you name me 5 different evening activities in 5 seconds? For example, I can name 5 different evening activities in 5 seconds. Paint, bake cookies, play board games, read a book, watch a movie. You got it? And now it's your turn. Can you name 5 evening activities in 5 seconds? Great job! I hope you did it. And now, as you can see on this slide, I prepared for you so many useful different expressions to use to speak about evening activities. But we have only verbs. You know that verb is very important. How to do it? Let's try it together. So if you have one variant, it's okay. For example, watch a movie, watch a film. But we can think a little bit and add, for example, watch a cartoon, watch a documentary, watch a YouTube video, and so on. If you've got many variants, it's amazing. So stop the video and try to finish all the expressions on the slide, please. Okay, so let's try to check cook a new recipe. Don't forget how to pronounce this word, recipe. Listen to music. Listen to. It's very important to use too after listen. Take a leisurely walk. So I love it a lot. Solve puzzles, like we did it some minutes ago. Organize a home spa night. It's a dream. And take photos of the sunset. So romantic. And now it's time to speak, right? Could you tell me please about your evening? Try to make 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe more sentences about your evening. And try to use the adverbs of frequency. Don't forget to put it on the second place before the verb. Like an example, I often watch TV in the evening. But it's not about me. Okay, let's do it. And just in some seconds we are going to listen to real conversation about the very interesting topic I prepared for you. But first, let's practice a little bit. What do you think will be your role? You're absolutely right. You are going to read person B the red lines. So, let's get started. How do you usually spend your evenings? And you are reading the red lines. I usually cook dinner when I catch up on my favorite TV shows. On weekends, I like to meet up with friends. Are you ready to listen to real conversation that I prepared for you? It will be amazing and so catching. Let's get started.
Today, we're diving into a topic that I think a lot of us can relate to, which is how people are spending their evenings in 2024.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you guys sent in some really interesting articles on this, so we're going to kind of pull out some of the coolest bits of information and analyze them for you.
Sounds good, yeah.
So one of the first things that I noticed in a lot of these articles was this idea of people turning to kind of creative pursuits in the evening, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like cooking, a lot of stuff about content creation.
I think it's interesting, right? Because, after a long day, I think people are looking for ways to, unwind, de-stress.
Yeah.
And it's less about, traditional hobbies, I think, and more about, tacking into the human need to express yourself.
Yeah.
I've seen it myself. I mean, you look at, these elaborate meals people are making and, posting them on social media, or, everyone's making TikToks and Reels and all these things. And it's really, I think, about sharing yourself with the world.
Right. Like streaming movies and series and things like that.
Yeah. And I think, there's something to be said for just, escaping into a good story.
Yeah.
Just turning your brain off for a little bit and just, transported somewhere else.
Especially nowadays where things just seem like more complicated.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the world is kind of a crazy place right now. So
it's that classic idea of escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need both. We need like the active and then we need the passive.
Exactly.
And speaking of like de-stressing and, kind of taking care of yourself, I thought it was really cool to see a lot of articles talking about the rise of evening wellness routines.
Yes.
Like, and they specifically talked about things like yoga, meditation, and just general self-care rituals. And, it's like people are finally realizing that it's really important to prioritize their well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it points to a bigger trend, right? This whole cultural shift that we've been seeing towards mental health and self-care.
Yeah.
People are recognizing that, the evenings aren't just for zoning out in front of the TV anymore. It's really an opportunity to, invest in your mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just about you. I mean, when you prioritize your own well-being, you're more likely to show up, as a better person in your relationships and your community.
Yeah, you're more present.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of the articles brought up this kind of juxtaposition between our very high-tech world that we live in now and this desire for unplugged kind of mindful activities, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating because on the one hand, you've got people, who are really into like, the latest video games and, VR experiences and those social kind of multiplayer games.
Yeah.
I actually had a pretty funny experience recently. I was doing a VR escape room with some friends.
Oh, nice.
And let's just say I'm about as clumsy in the virtual world as I am in real life.
That's funny.
But yeah, but I
But it is interesting, right? Because it's almost like people are looking for these, kind of intense stimulation, like they're looking for thrills.
Right.
But then they also, want that quiet time for introspection.
Yeah.
And it suggests that, maybe we're just trying to balance these different parts of modern life.
Yeah.
And, gaming is a great example of that. It's a great way to, escape, but it's also a great way to connect socially, especially for people who maybe, don't find traditional social settings so easy.
Right. Yeah, and that actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the whole content creation trend.
Yeah,
right? Because, it's another way to connect with people, but it's more about like, sharing yourself creatively.
Yeah. Whether it's through, a hilarious TikTok video or, a really thought-provoking blog post. I mean, it's about, putting yourself out there and connecting with other people who share those same interests. And I think it speaks to the fact that even though, we live in this high-tech world, those human needs for connection and creativity, they're still really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like these outlets are like a modern version of, gathering around a campfire and telling stories.
Right. Yeah. So we've got this really interesting variety of evening activities.
Yeah.
From, screens to self-care and cooking and creating. And it just seems like people are finding all sorts of different ways to unwind and recharge at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's a really fascinating landscape. And I think, for anyone listening, it's a great opportunity to, to think about, well, how do you spend your evenings?
Yeah.
What do you choose to do with that time? And what does it say about you and what you value?
Yeah.
So, maybe this deep dive has inspired you to, try something new or just to think a little bit differently about how you're spending your downtime.
Yeah, great advice. Well, thanks for joining us for this exploration, everyone. And we hope it gave you some food for thought.
Absolutely.
All right. Until next time.
See you then.
And that is all. Our lesson is over. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for learning with me. Thank you for watching this video. And we'll see you next time. So don't forget to subscribe. And see you soon. Bye-bye. See you.